Fabio getting his helmet cleaned. Quite a lot of the time the riders go round to the grid in one helmet, they'll take it off and they'll actually put on a dry helmet for the race, because even lifting the visor up, letting a few drops of water in there, that can actually ruin your race.
Yeah, Fabio not smiling so much as he was earlier, but as we know...
but he's concentrating. Obviously, you need the stress is at high level now. You know, he knows he's going to be there's going to be some trouble. They're going to come for him. So yeah, he's concentrating hard now.
He's surrounded, isn't he, by Ducatis and the KTM behind him, Brad Binder as well, who he needs to get a good start here. We know he's a Sunday man.
Yeah, Binder always so dangerous on a Sunday, and Binder is very, very good in low grip conditions. This is how he got his first win, and we can expect to see him up there as well.
It's incredible to think that just really a handful of minutes ago we were talking about possibly not getting a race, and now they're on the grid. I mean, you have to praise the circuit with the workers and the organisers. Saw Mike Trimley standing down there talking to the Dorna boys, making the decisions, and here we go, they've made it happen. Of course it was down to the shaman, but they've got everybody organised. The protocol has worked very well, and we're now looking at our winner from Qatar, Enea Bastianini, in the Grassini team, that highly charged, emotional victory, and he goes from the second row, Michael.
Yeah, and Nea's a good wet weather rider as well. Not his forte, but he will be strong. And again, I honestly think Nea's looking at this season as he has a chance everywhere, so he'll be just going out there looking for solid points. Another strong qualifying problem this weekend. It seems like that GP21, he's just right at home within that team, on that bike. So knowing the Ducati works well in the rain, he just needs to look for a top 6, top 7 result, and he'd be happy with that.
Yeah, between Binder and Bagnaia as the grid goes through. Miguel Oliveira heading the third row with Alex Rins, who'll be relishing these conditions, as indeed will Jack Miller, Aleix Espargaro from 10th, Fabio Di Gianantonio in 11th, and Luca Marini in 12th. It's really the back end of the grid that's got some surprises this week. As you Paul Espargaro, who went so well in Qatar, he's in 15th, Andrea Dovizioso in 16th, Joan Mir in 17th, and of course the Hondas struggling back here. Mark was in the second half of the grid, but he's not riding. If you're just tuning in, he is injured. He had a massive high side this morning, and he has concussion, and we await to find out if there are any other injuries. That's the president of Indonesia, as we go down to Natalie, who is speaking to Piero Taramasso from Michelin.
Well, Piero, we've not had these conditions all weekend, a wet race. How confident are you with the tyres that you have here?
Yeah, we work for dry condition all weekend, and now it's wet, and the best solution is medium front and medium rear. This is the more consistent, and because the track temperature is quite high, is around 25, 26. With the medium, you avoid to overheat on the right side of the rear tire. So I think full grid they will be with this solution.
Thanks, Piero.
Okay, you're welcome.
Yeah, they've had a lot of work to do, haven't Michael? What did you think of what he said there?
Well, interesting, when we heard from Lucio Cecchinello earlier, he was suggesting the soft tyre would be the go in the wet conditions. So even though it's a shorter race, Piero thinking they're going to go with that medium option because of the temperature that builds on the right side of the tyre.
Yeah, with those tyres, what happens if there is not a lot of standing water, and if the track, especially the track, has grip, which it seems like it does here, you do get tyres overheating, and they start to drop in performance. With the medium tyres, which are a little bit stronger, they resist better to the abuse. They resist also a lot better to drying track. I mean, you never know, you might get, if it stops raining completely with the bikes going around, you might get a little bit of a line towards the end of the race. And the medium front as well gives more braking stability. So as long as you're not struggling with the actual grip of the tarmac, which they're not here because it's pretty new, it's very abrasive, the medium tyre will hold on better for the race.
Miguel Oliveira heading the third row of the grid, and let's not underestimate what the riders have ahead of them, Michael, here. They haven't been able to test these conditions at all. They've had no wet practice. MotoGP, there was that one session, but it was a drying track, so really, really difficult, particularly I think for the rookies, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. The rookies are the ones with the biggest task today. As Sylvain said, they were lucky that they got that test at Sepang as well, so whenever they were in pre-season, they got to understand the Michelin tyres, but it's always different in a race scenario, so figuring out how these tyres work, it is good in a way that these are the same rain tyres that the guys run on all the time, so the base setting that they would have in the toolbox to throw into that bike, the wet weather package, everyone will have that locked and loaded in the bikes now, so it's just up to the riders to find their feet as quick as possible.
And nobody since the start of the weekend, has had the chance to try those full wet conditions. They have been on wet tires on the track, but the track was very much dry and it was just a start session, so they've not really experienced these conditions at all. So now we're going to see which riders can adapt the fastest, and this is so hard. I mean, in wet conditions like this, so easy to make a mistake. The difference between hero and zero is not very big.
Interesting, the shots we're getting from the director there. We saw Johan Zarco, Jack Miller, both of those you would expect to do well in these conditions.
Yeah, definitely. Those two guys, they're not scared. They know they're strong. They have confidence, and the rain is starting to drop again a little bit more.
Oh, you're right. There is a little bit of rain, but nothing. Aleix Espargaro, not that excited about these conditions. He was talking to Natalie earlier. If you're just tuning in, we've had this big delay because we've been in the centre of a storm in Indonesia and a lot of standing water on the track. Some of it's been cleared. Still conditions still wet out there, but okay to race as we look at the virtual fan wall. I'm not really sure why we've still got a virtual fan wall. We've got actual fans, but there's your pole sitter then, Fabio Quartararo, who is heading the field, but he's going to have to do so well to get into turn one ahead of those Ducatis, isn't he?
Yeah, and honestly with Fabio, it's funny, he looked like he was relaxed, but we know that the tension increases for him ahead of a wet race because it's not his strength. So he knows he's going to be battling those Ducatis in the run to turn one. He'll have to battle them throughout the race. So for him, it's all about a strong point scoring finish, not throwing it away, bringing it home today, and making sure he's thinking about 21 rounds about this championship again.
So what are you expecting to see there? As soon as the lights go out, what can we expect?
Well, I'm actually looking for the wild cards in the field. So the likes of Fabio Di Giannantonio, superb qualifying in there in the 11th. We don't know how quick he's going to adapt to these conditions, to the Michelin tyres. First ever race for him on a MotoGP bike, but the Ducati works well in the wet. So there could be a few surprise contenders in those rookies jumping up there. But I think the more likely outcome is a Zarco and Miller control of the race from the front in the early laps. So yeah, it's still as difficult to predict as it was ahead of the dry race, but I think today could be a Ducati day.
Empty shot to the garage there of the number 93 Marc Marquez, who is not racing today. He is injured from a massive high side he had this morning. Franco Morbidelli, 3-place grid penalty for him for yesterday, starting from 14th, which he took with grace. He's got some work to do, and yeah, probably struggle here in these conditions.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes for him, but for the podium, I think it's going to be quite hard. We got some strong lads here in the wet, so yeah, for me, just like Michael, I think Johan Zarco is for me is the favourite of the race. Jack Miller, and then my wild card is Alex Rins, because he is super fast in the rain, and fingers crossed he doesn't make a mistake.
I'm surprised you didn't mention Johan Zarco there at the front of the grid as we pan across the front. The two Pramac Ducatis, Jorge Martin, Polman, Fabio Quartararo. We get a race! Thank goodness for that, Neil Hodgson and Gavin Emmett.
Yeah, Susie, you know it's bad when you're looking up how many riders in history of DNF due to being swept out to sea. But we do have a race. 20 laps it's going to be. Fabio Quartararo is on pole. We are ready to go. Finally, an hour and a quarter after the original start time, and we are going to get a Grand Prix of Indonesia. They waited 25 years for MotoGP Indonesia to get a race, and it almost didn't take place. Earlier this morning, we heard that the race distance was being dropped by a quarter, from 27 down to 20 laps, because, and I quote from Franco Ancini, to preserve the track conditions because of the asphalt. Cue the shaman. She's a rain handler, and she brought the rain to cool it down, and thankfully now she's been able to take it away from us, and we are going to get racing. We hope that this rain doesn't get heavier, that's picked up as the riders sit there on the grid, because we have 20 laps, 53 miles ahead of us. The last full wet race we had was Le Mans in 2020. You remember that? Danilo Petrucci, he absolutely loved this one, wouldn't he? Especially with all the dirt actually out there, having done the Dakar in this winter. It is a strange old day. We made all sorts of notes and all the number crunching about which tyre will last and so on and so forth. Chuck all that in the bin, because now we've got a wet race, Neil Hodgson, and it's even tougher to call than it was beforehand.